Today we are discussing about the degree of reaction. Degree of reaction nothing but a contribution of pressure energy inside the runner or contribution of kinetic energy plus contribution of the pressure energy. Whereas it can also denoted by change in pressure inside the runner or change in total energy inside the runner. Total energy nothing but the kinetic energy plus pressure energy. Whereas one of the important equation is given by the Euler, which is called fundamental equation for hydrodynamic machines or energy transfers per unit weight to the runner. Or else we can also call it as total energy change inside the runner per unit weight. Total energy change inside the runner per unit weight. This is given by HE, which is called fundamental equation for hydrodynamic emissions. Energy transfers per unit weight of the weight to the runner. What is unit weight? Unit weight means mg, mass into gravity. Unit weight of the water. What is the contribution of the water? Energy transfers per unit weight of the water. Total energy change inside the runner per unit weight of the water. Whereas we called as one of the important equation He is equal to 1 by Z Vw1 U1 plus or minus Vw2 U2. We can also observe that the inlet velocity diagram for the inward inward radial reaction turbine, or we can consider it as Francis turbine. We can call it as U1, whereas the velocity of the blade, and VW1 wheel velocity, VR1 relative velocity between the water striking the blade, and the velocity of the blade. As VF1 flow velocity, inlet flow velocity, V1 velocity of the water inside the runner, whereas alpha making an angle alpha to strike the blade, blader guide vane. Okay, now we can call first of all we calculate the VW1 U1. For that VW1 is equal to U1 plus B into C. VC, whereas V1 V1 VC we can call it as VR1 cos theta. VR1 cos theta. We can write it as VR1 cos theta. VR1 cos theta. Whereas VW1 is equal to, due to Pythagoras theorem, based on the Pythagoras theorem, VW1 is equal to V1 square minus VF1 square. Whereas VW1 minus U1, the square root will goes upon as a square, VR1 square minus, whereas VF1 total triangle V1 square minus VW1 square. We can write it as, we can expand VW1 minus U1 whole square. VW1 square plus U1 square plus 2 VW1 U1 is equal to VR1 square minus V1 square plus VW1 square. We cancel the VW1. The remaining term is like VW1 U1. VW1 U1 is equal to U1 square minus VR1 square minus plus V1 square by 2. As in the case of the from outlet velocity of the triangle, inward inward radial reaction turbine, that is for velocity outlet velocity triangle. Whereas we can calculate as VW2 U2 is equal to VR2 cos phi. VW2 is equal to VR2 cos phi minus U2. Whereas VW2 is equal to, we can write it as VR2. VR2 we can write it as U2 or VW2. Whereas this line, as per Pythagoras theorem, VR2 square minus VF2 square minus U2. VW2 is equal to VR2 square minus VF2. VF2 means this triangle. This triangle V2 square minus VW2 square. VW2 square. We can call it as VW2 plus U2 whole square is equal to VR2 square, V2 square plus VW2 square. Same thing we expand A plus B whole square, VW2 square, U2, 2 into VW2 U2 is equal to VR2 square minus V2 square plus VW2 square. VW2 square, VW2 square, we can cancel. We got the equation for VW2 U2, whereas VW2 U2 is equal to 1 by 2 VR2 square UV2 square minus U2 square. This is our main equation and fundamental equation of the hydrodynamics. Dynamics fundamental equation of hydrodynamics. H is equal to half 1 by Z VW1 U1 plus or minus VW2 U2. Whereas H is equal to 1 by 2Z VW1 U1 U1 square minus VR1 square plus V1 square plus or minus VR2 square minus V2 square V2 square U2 square. H is equal to 1 by 2Z U1 square VR1 square V1 square. We just redistributed it. V1 square minus V2 square V1 square minus V2 square U1 square minus U2 square U1 square minus U2 square VR2 square minus V1 square. We can call it as H is equal to V1 square minus V2 square by 2Z U1 square minus U2 square by 2Z plus VR2 square minus VR1 square by 2Z. Where he blue colored, whereas change in kinetic energy per unit weight inside the runner. Whereas u1 square minus u2 square by 2z, change in energy per unit due to centrifugal action. Whereas vr2 square minus vr1 square, change in static pressure energy per unit weight. Now change in pressure inside the runner. The sum of the u1 square minus u2 square by 2z plus vr2 square minus vr1 square by 2z. Whereas reaction turbine, change in pressure energy by change in total energy. Nothing but change in total energy, nothing but kinetic energy plus pressure energy. We cancel this all 2z. We got the final equation u1 square minus u2 square, vr2 square minus vr1 square, v1 square minus v2 square, u1 square minus u2 square, vr2 square minus vr1 square. We added v1 square minus v2 square and subtracted v1 square minus v2 square. No change in the numerical term, so that we cancel it out, this total term and this total term, so that we obtain a 1 minus v1 square minus v2 square by total energy, pressure energy, kinetic energy plus pressure energy. We got this equation 2zhe v1 square minus v2 square plus v1 square minus u2 square vr2 square minus vr1 square. Based on this equation, after substituting of vw1 u1 vw2 u2, we obtain this. For reaction turbine, R is equal to 1 minus V1 square minus V2 square by 2ZA, HE. For Pelton well, we know that U1 is equal to U2, VR2, VR1 is equal to VR2, so that we obtain it R is equal to 1 minus V1 square minus V2 square by V1 square by V2 square. So that reaction turbine for the Pelton wheel is, degree of reaction for the Pelton wheel is 0. Now we classify the degree of reaction for the actual reaction turbine, means inward reaction turbine. We know that the radial Francis turbine beta is equal to 90, VWT is equal to 0, V2 is equal to VF2, whereas VF1 is equal to VF2, H is equal to 1 by Z VW1 U1 plus or minus VW2 U2, but VW2 is equal to 0, so that this term will be 0. From this inlet velocity triangle, tan alpha is equal to Vf1 by Vw1, whereas we reverse that cot alpha is equal to Vw1 by Vf1, whereas Vw1 is equal to Vf1 cot alpha Whereas in case of u1, u1 is equal to vw minus vw1 minus vc. U1 is equal to vw1 minus, whereas bc value vf1 cot alpha. We substituted vw1 and vf1 cot alpha, vf1 cot alpha minus vf1 cot theta. We substituted here h is equal to 1 by z vw1 u1. After substituting, vw1 is equal to vf1 cot alpha. After substituting u1 vw1 vw1 vf1 cot alpha and u1 vf1 cot alpha minus vf1 cot theta. So that h we got it as vf1 cot square alpha minus cot alpha cot theta. So v1 square minus v2 square is equal to vf1 cosecant square alpha, whereas v1 value, and v2 is equal to vf2 already given here. So v1 square minus v2 square is equal to vf1 square cot square alpha minus 1, v1 square minus v2 square vf1, whereas cosecant square alpha minus 1 is cot square alpha. So that reaction turbine for degree of reaction for the reaction turbine or inward radial reaction turbine or Francis turbine, we call it as vf1 square cot square alpha 1 by z vf1 cot alpha, vf1 cot alpha minus vf1 cot theta. After simplification, we got as r is equal to 1 minus cot square alpha minus by cot alpha minus cot theta. This is very important equation. Based on this, many questions will be appear on the exam. Thank you.